Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 7 of Party in the Back, the review series for the sports wagons and estate cars, and also non-sports wagons as well, that are featured on GranTurismo. And in this episode we're featuring my personal favourite wagon that's currently featured on the game. Not necessarily my favourite wagon in real life, but of the ones that are on the game, I'd say this is pretty certainly my favourite. It's the 2001 shape Audi RS4 Avant, or the RS4 BiTurbo, as it's also known. Interestingly, back when this car came out, there was no saloon counterpart to this RS4, which is very interesting and kind of unusual. There was an S4, but no RS4 saloon was available. Kind of a shame, but quite a few people have made custom versions into a mock RS4 using the front end of this car and working it back from there. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of this model? Because it's an Audi RS model, so it's going to be pretty strong, you already know that. But how does it compare to the other wagons? And primarily, of course, how does it compare to the RS6s? Because they are more popular choices overall than the RS4, especially the newer shape RS6, for obvious reasons. They have more power, a larger engine, etc. So can the RS4 be a legitimate threat to those cars? Well, it's powered by a 2.7 litre twin-turbo or biturbo engine. It puts out well over 700 horsepower fully tuned. It's actually just under 720. It also puts out over 520 pound-feet of torque, both of which are pretty impressive figures for a 2.7 litre. It weighs in at just under 1,300 kilos, which is reasonably good for a wagon, considering that Audi does put a decent amount of kit into their cars, and it is of course also all-wheel drive. So weighing under 1,300 kilos is perfectly respectable. As far as horsepower per tonne, it puts out just over 550. It's actually 554 horsepower per tonne. And the PP is, I would say, pretty much perfect. It sits at 583. And I think that's perfect for this car. Any higher than that and you'd start to lose effectiveness, and any lower and it would just be far too OP. As it is, this is a brilliant performance car, and especially if you down tune it to, say, the 500 to 575 pp region. Anywhere within that range and this car is brilliant. Now, I'm not saying it's not brilliant fully tuned, it's just not necessarily the best choice for over 580 pp racing. It can certainly keep up with a good variety of cars, but I'm just saying don't expect it to beat everything at that level. Now, being all-wheel drive and being an RS model of Audi's range, this is pretty much Audi showing off what they're capable of. This is their, or was, their performance flagship as far as the A4 range goes. So does it live up to the hype of the RS moniker? Well, I have to say it definitely does. Now, in a straight line, it's not quite as quick as an RS6, either the newer or older shape. But that's not too surprising because both of the RS6s have larger engines, more torque, and significantly more power, especially the newer shape RS6. But the advantages that this car has include handling and, more importantly, price. Because this car is almost a third of the price of an RS6. And that is brilliant value. This costs just over 40,000 credits, and for that kind of money, I would say it's actually one of not only the best all-round wagons in the game, but also one of the best all-round performance cars in the game at that price level. Around the track, this car can take on Evos, Imprezas, Supras, even Skylines with fantastic effectiveness. It's a brilliant car. I wouldn't exactly call it a sleeper because people can recognise it pretty easily, and it does stand out, especially if you have it in yellow, such as the spec that I have. But it is more understated than some performance cars, and the fact alone that it's a wagon does make people have a false sense of security when they go up against you, and that applies to any wagon, but especially is that the case with this car, because if they underestimate you in this model, they will probably lose to you, because this car is brilliant. The four-wheel drive system is, I would say, perfect for this car. It does just enough of the work to make the car still incredibly fun to drive and very, very engaging for the driver. You don't feel like you're not needed, as in some, we won't name names, but in some all-wheel drive cars you feel like you're kind of unnecessary and the car's doing all the work. With this model it gives you just enough help, and the handling is still nice and loose, which is pretty outstanding for an all-wheel drive wagon. Many of them are quite easily heavy around corners. This one's not at all. And I love this car because it has a pretty unique engine. Audi later went to the more obvious 4.2 V8s and then the V10s, etc. Whereas this car has a really unique engine, that 2.7 litre twin turbo. So if you're looking for one of the best all-round estate cars in the game, this is a great one to go for. And so that's it for this episode. So I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.